What was it that caused you to do what you did that day? Was it anger? Was it drugs? Was it a combination? What made you do what you did on that day when you went in there with a gun, threw the lady over your shoulder, dragged her outside, threatened her? Tell us a little bit about the reality of that day and what happened that day.
We are about to watch the parole hearing of a man who was sentenced to 25 years as an habitual offender. His good time date is 2029, so he's put in quite a lot of time already. Now, we're going to do something that I'm not sure we've ever done on Mandu, and that is watch 3 of his parole hearings. We're going to start with 2020, jump to 2023, and finally arrive at his most recent parole hearing of August 2024. I'll unpack it with what details we have at the end.
Mr. Wise, this is a case for Sterling Blade, DOC number 405748. We have no other participants.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Blade, if you would state your name and DOC number.
Sterling Jerome Blade, 405748.
Mr. Blade, Ms. Cheryl Renosov will be on the panel today. She'll be asking you questions first. And also Mr. Alvin Roche and myself, I'm Jim Wise. I'll be chairing today. You're a third offender unauthorized entry of a habit dwelling, May 30th, 2006, 25 years of hard labor. January 29th, 2012, and July 1st, 2030. Full term days, October 29th, 2030. At this time, Ms. Cheryl Renosov will be asking you some questions.
Good afternoon, Mr. Blade.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Mr. Blade, you, as he said, you were convicted unauthorized entry of an inhabited dwelling. Did you do a plea deal for that?
No, ma'am. I went to trial.
You went to trial. And what were your original charges?
I think it was aggravated kidnapping and
yeah, let me help you out. Aggravated battery, second-degree kidnapping, resisting an officer, and battery of a police officer.
Yes, ma'am. Some of that. Okay.
And so you fared pretty well with the unauthorized entry conviction. So I looked in the records that were provided to us, and I see that you completed some sex offender treatment. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you currently enrolled?
Yes, ma'am. I was in phase 2 and finna take a test when the pandemic struck.
Okay, so that program is suspended right now.
Yes, ma'am.
And how long have you been in jail?
I've been in jail since 2006, since February 17th of 2006.
So that's what, 14 years?
15,
Lamar?
right at 15.
And so why did it take you so long to try to do the sex offender class?
The facility I was in was Wayne Correctional when I entered the system in 2006, and they shut the class down for what reason I didn't know.
Right. So it wasn't available to you until you got to Rayburn?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
well,
ma'am.
So talk to me about your conduct record. I see you have some write-ups in 2019.
Yes, ma'am. I've caught several write-ups since I entered this prison here at Rayburn.
I know, and we like to see you have a clean conduct record for a sustained period of time.
Yes, ma'am. But it just took me a little while to get, normal to the rules, because I really didn't know the rules of the institution. I thought I was making some good judgments and decisions, and I found out I wasn't.
Yeah, you won. Aggravated disobedience, defiance, those are concerning, considering that you also have a history of violence in your criminal history.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have any other particular questions. It's my wish. Before I can grant you parole, you're gonna have to do the sex offender treatment.
Okay,
you have to complete that program. So you know where I stand, so I don't have any other questions.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Alvin Roche.
Mr. Chairman, I have no questions.
I really don't have any questions. I see you've done some good things since you've been in prison. Is there anything you'd like to say to the board before we vote?
I would like to express my remorse for the victims I caused harm to in this case. My family, including my, and other victims as well. That was all involved.
Okay, sir. Thank you. At this time, Ms. Cheryl Winoff will be voting.
Yeah, my vote, as I mentioned, is going to be to deny you parole because you need to finish the sex offender treatment. And if you have the opportunity, once you complete it, reapply for another hearing. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank y'all.
Stay there.
Mr. Roche.
Mr. Blade, my vote is the same for the same reason.
And I also vote the same. Hey, let me tell you something, Sterling. You can knock this out. Just bow down and knock it out, and you'll be coming back before long. And when you come back, if I'm here, I'm gonna do a little different. You've done some great things since you've been there, but you got to complete this. Today, I'm voting to deny after completion of the sex offender treatment program. Thank you.
Thank y'all. You see?
And one of the faster hearings that we've seen as well. And I tell you what, I do not miss Jim Wise at all. For those of you not familiar with Jim Wise, not related in any way to Miss Wise, but his internet connection was perpetually bad, like what we just saw. It never had a day where it was better than what we just saw. And to me, that was just a complete slap in the face to everybody participating, his coworkers, the inmates, the parolees, everybody, because he never fixed it. And I just could not get over that fact. And he was actually the longest serving board member, over a decade. I forget the exact dates up until he left, which is just disturbing to me. But anyways, let's move on. We're going to jump forward now to his next hearing, which takes place 2023. And we're going to go to Ms. Renata, Mr. O'Shea, and Ms. Wise hearing.
Wednesday, April 26, 2023. It is 10:52 a.m.
Yeah.
Ready for our first case, and I have Mr. Sterling Blade on my list.
Okay.
Come on. Good morning, Mr. Blade. Would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number, please.
Sterling Blade, 405748.
Mr. Blade, you're here for parole hearing this morning. First, I'm going to read some identifying information into the record, and then we'll start the parole interview with you.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Mr. Blade, you're classified as a third felony offender. You're currently serving a 25-year sentence as a habitual offender, having been sentenced in May of 2006 for unauthorized entry of an inhabited dwelling. The parole eligibility date was January 29th, 2012. You have a good time date, November 3rd, 2029. This is a rehearing for you. You previously were heard in January of this year.
Yes, ma'am. July of 20.
July, okay. All right. Your case this morning has been assigned to Mrs. Wise. Would you answer her question?
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's it going?
Okay.
Okay, all right. Did you have any visitors today? Anybody coming?
No, ma'am. They all working.
They're all working, all right. Okay. How long for the record, sir, how long you served on this charge?
17 years.
Okay, 17 years of a 25-year sentence, right? And how old today?
Ma'am,
How old are you today?
45.
45. And of your 45 years of living, how long have you spent in jail, would you say, when you count them up?
Probably about 23 years.
Oh, okay, so this is the longest time you ever been in jail?
Yes, ma'am.
Longest time, okay. Tell Tell us what you've been doing. What do you do every day?
I'm currently right now in basic automotive, but since I've been down incarcerated, I've been cooking my majority of my whole jobs. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And I've been applying myself with these therapy sessions and groups and courses. Getting my
Okay.
GED in 2010 and just building a positive, you know what I'm saying, timeline from there.
Okay. Well, call out the programs that meant the most to you that you've taken. What would you say?
I would say Cage Rage, Celebrate Recovery, and BETG.
What is that one?
That's the offender treatment group therapy for the
okay.
for the
Sex
1998.
offender classes.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. The sex offender classes. Okay. The BETG group.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good.
Treatment group.
Okay. I did see that you did complete all 4 phases of the sex offender treatment program. You finished that in 21, right?
Yes,
Right. Okay. So tell us what's your takeaways from that?
the takeaways.
And what you learned, what did you take away from the class? The sex
I
offender-
learned how to identify. I learned the prevention. I understand what to look, understanding it and what to look for.
How you mean?
It's during phase 1, you have to know how to identify with the definitions. And then part 2, it shows you how to write sentences using those definitions and identifying the risk factors. In phase 3, you have to give a breakdown of low, medium, and high. And stage 4 is the final one, and you have to give an overall on the whole program.
And so what are risk factors?
Ma'am?
What did you get?
What are your risk factors? What did you learn with your risk factors? Do you remember?
Hanging around negative peer groups, negative emotional state, and denial maybe.
Okay, all right, okay. We do an assessment as to needs, and you ranked high in antisocial thinking. And you rank high overall. There's nothing you can do about it. I just want you to be aware of an assessment that we look at as a tool, in reaching a decision. Now, back to your current offense. You went to jury trial on your current offense?
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What was
Yes,
your
ma'am.
thinking then? What were you thinking then?
I wasn't thinking clearly when I went to trial, evidently, because if I'd have took the plea bargain then, I would have been home. But by me, still being hot-headed under the influence of those demons, dealing with those cigarettes, alcohol, and drugs, I wasn't thinking clearly, and I got myself in a nice swindle. And that's why I've been incarcerated for so long.
Have you had victim awareness?
Yes, ma'am.
So when you look at your current charge, of unauthorized entry, with a charge, what is it, unauthorized entry on behalf, well,
Yes, ma'am.
what have you come up with of how you've impacted them? What have you come up with?
I understand I affected a lot of families, not just my family.
Mhm.
Young lady that was involved and the families that surrounded them, my whole parish, my kids' mama and they family, people that surrounded them. I affected a lot of people by my actions, and I take full responsibility of those actions.
What was your relationship to your victim in this crime?
Oh, she was just a live-in girlfriend. The situation had got to the point where she was lying, and we just come to the agreement that we was about to break it off completely. And I said what I wanted, and she said the stuff that she was gonna keep, but she didn't keep her end of the deal, and she took some of my things, like my car, my jewelry, some other things, and she hid it from me. That's what made me, when I found out where she was at, I just went kick the door in. I was knocking on the door, calling her, and she wouldn't come outside. I just went kick down the young lady that she was in the house with. She called the police and then she come out, I'm gonna show you where your stuff at. I said, we ain't have to go through this. I had to come to this. So she got in the car with me, left with me, showed me what my thing was, and I dropped it back off.
Well, you know, the report I got doesn't say that.
But that's how it really happened, because that's what I was supposed to be charged with in the beginning, but the way it happened so fast. I was charged with aggravated kidnapping, aggravated assault, second-degree kidnapping, and there's another charge.
Resisting an officer, and burying a police officer. Aggravated burglary, yeah.
I mean, it looked pretty bad back then.
Yep. It did. So, what's your relationship with her now?
I'm not affiliated with it, no kind of way, man.
Y'all don't have children together?
No, ma'am.
Now, I do want to inform you that you do have law enforcement opposition to your early release. There's nothing you can do about it. And again, I want to congratulate you on your high set. I'm glad to see that you got that. How do you think you did on supervision, the times you were on supervision?
I completed one and then I violated one.
Yeah, that's what I'm showing. Tell me about the drug use. How old were you when you started using drugs?
Maybe about 16, 17, all the way up to about like 24, 25.
How did you come to stop using drugs?
When I come to prison and start taking these classes and therapy groups and treatment courses along the way during this incarceration.
Do you think you need any further substance abuse treatment?
No, ma'am, because I really don't have no habits. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do drugs. I don't even have the urges. But if I do have an urge, I know I have accountability partners and sponsors that can help me with that. I can go talk to it. And outside, short term and long term accountability partners and sponsors.
Who are they? They're not here today, so who are they?
Parents, mother and father, sister and brother, daughter, son.
So when was your last write-up?
In 20.
And how many you've had these 17 years?
Roughly speaking, maybe over 30.
I can't find in my notes how many you had. One, how many write-ups have you had?
35.
35. That's 35. Okay. All right. Thank you for answering my question, sir. Warden, what you want to tell us?
Well, Sterling has worked in the kitchen since he came here. He started out just helping out around in there, and then he moved up to cook. He held that position until he went to the VOTEC. He is in our honors program as well.
Good.
All right, Mr. Roche has a question.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Blade, how are you?
Good morning.
Mr. Blade, convince me that you're not the person that got arrested in 1994 for carrying an illegal weapon. You got arrested in 1997 for carnal knowledge of a juvenile. This one is your first sex offense, and the one you're in right now is your second sex offense. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And then simple battery, simple assault, criminal damage to property, aggravated flight from an officer, assault of drug, aggravated kidnapping, simple battery, second-degree kidnapping, battery on a police officer, aggravated burglary, simple burglary. It just, you have an extensive criminal background. Convince me that you're not that person anymore.
I don't do the things that I used to do. I don't hang around them crowds of people no more. I mean, I don't have no more time to waste. I was a little boy then. I had to make a real transition from a boy to a man, not only for me, for my parents and my children.
How long have you been incarcerated?
On this, Joseph, 17 years.
17 years?
Just on this,
I know.
just on this charge.
But what I'm saying is you hadn't been around those persons because you've been incarcerated for 17 years.
They have them in here too, sir.
Okay. So your last write-up was, what, 2.5 years ago? What happened there?
The last write-up?
Yeah.
Here?
Yeah.
I had took some food out the kitchen. I was charged with theft for Rule 22.
Okay. I'll listen, but I'm still not convinced that you're ready in the criminal aspects of your life concerns me. Drugs, violence, crimes against persons. That's a concern to me. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I see, this is what I was, your employment plan is with Reentry Solutions. What are you gonna be doing for them?
That's a platform that guys from that area, from where I'm from, they contact that lady and her family, and she find out what you can do and what you're able to take on, and just build from there. She helped with everything. She helped with housing, whatever I'm gonna need, basically that my family can't help me with.
Oh, okay.
I have transportation. I wouldn't need that, but she would help me, get a job. And if I want a second job, she said she'll be able to help with that too.
Okay. All right. So it was a reentry place. Okay. I thought it was okay. Right. And you're gonna live with your mother. That's correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And now when was the last time you used drugs? Any kind of illegal drug, any kind of illegal substance? Can you remember?
Back in 2005.
2005. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, when I caught this charge.
And you haven't used since?
No, ma'am, I hadn't relapsed since.
And it's concerning for me that you were on parole when you committed this charge.
No, man, I had been released. I think that was in 2003. I was discharging at my local parish jail on the CDS 2 under the possession and the flight charge. When I caught another charge, I had been out maybe like 30 days, and the charge was thrown on.
Oh, okay.
And I was violated then. I violated myself. The board didn't violate me. I violated myself. And then when I got out, I bonded out. And then when I went to court from the street, the charge wasn't there no more. So that's when I completed it. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think they looks like they just closed your case. When you got that new charge, they just closed your case. That's what they did. But you were, what I read, you were on supervision when you committed this charge. You might have thought that you were off. All right. That's all I had.
All right, Mr. Blade, is there a statement you'd like to make to us before we go?
That's basically it.
Okay. All right, I think we're prepared to vote. Mrs. Wise.
This is your second time before the board. I would like to see you do a little longer write-up free. 2019 is kind of close, kind of concerning for me with your poor supervision record. You still are a very, very, very young man. And you have an opportunity to just really, you just have another opportunity. I'm just not willing to take a chance on you today, sir, because of your poor supervision history and your high needs. I just think that need a little bit more work. That is my vote.
Mr. O'Shea.
My vote is the same for the same reasons.
All right, Mr. Blade, when I sat on your panel, in 2020.
Yes,
and,
ma'am.
And my notes back then said you need to complete the sex offender treatment, and you've done that.
Yes, ma'am.
Was my concern at that time. My vote today would be to grant because you did what was asked of you. So, however, you've gotten 2 votes to deny, 1 vote to grant. So on a 2-to-1 vote, your parole's denied today.
Yes, ma'am.
Good luck. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Stay right up, reapply when you can.
Thank y'all.
Oof, nothing like a Mr. O'Shea mic drop. I feel like the strongest would cower under his talking to. I don't want to call it tirade, but it's more like his stern talking to. There's just something so unique about that man. I know he's not for everybody. Not everyone feels the same way as I do about him, but I know I love him, and many of us do, and I certainly do miss Mr. O'Shea. Now we're gonna fast forward to 8/20/2024, which is August 2024, for his 3rd parole hearing. Now his good time date's 2029, so he still has 5 years riding on this. Do you think that he's going to get a grant? I mean, I find this to be fascinating to see kind of like the parole journey that someone goes through from way back when at the beginning to now. And I think certain things we should take into account is, hey, did he pick up any new write-ups? Is he excelling? Is he doing what they're asking him to do? And I think have to take all of that into account. Anyways, let's see what the new parole board decides. They have been really difficult as of late. With that, let's jump in.
They're closing up. Hey, we got one more.
I was just unmuted.
Oh, okay. Got nervous.
We're done.
Yeah, we was trying to go. All right. Committee on Parole is called back to order today. Time is 12:23 p.m. We're returning to Rayburn Correctional Center. And we have Mr. Blade. Mr. Blade, would you please give us your full name and your DOC number for the record?
Sterling Jerome Blade, 405748.
All right. Give you a brief explanation of how the procedure works. We're gonna give you, I'm gonna read some information into the record and ask you to verify about your eligibility. We're gonna give you a chance to speak first and let us know what you did to get in jail and what you've done while you're in jail and why you think today is a good day for us to grant you parole. Then we ask the warden for some information. We will give opposition and supporters a chance to speak, and then we'll conduct the parole interview. So let's begin. Today we have for parole consideration Sterling Blade, DOC number 405748, who is a 3rd felony offender who was convicted of unauthorized entry of an inhabited dwelling habitual offender. And on May 30th, 2006, was sentenced to serve 25 years hard labor in Rapides Parish. Parole eligibility date is 1/29/12. Your good time date is 11/3/29, and your full term date is 10/29/30. Does that information sound correct to you?
That's correct.
All right. Well, it's your turn to speak. Go ahead and tell us what you did to end yourself up in jail and what you've done while you're in jail and why you think we should release you.
Reason why I'm in jail is because I committed some crimes that started out as aggravated. Was aggravated kidnapping, 2nd-degree kidnapping, aggravated assault, unauthorized entry. The matter went to trial after maybe 15, 16 months. In trial, they dropped all the charges except the unauthorized entry of them and inhabited dwelling because I entered a structure of a friend of a girlfriend I was dating at that time. And I kicked her door frame down. That's why I'm in here in jail today as a habitual offender, because I have 10 felonies, 4 felonies within 10 years. And since I've been here, I've been started a path of recovery since day one. I've been in classes way before I could get good time, run my CTP credit scores up, started out taking like courses like 12-step recovery, AANA, programming unit, AVAL, communication roadblocks, thinking for a change, HIV/AIDS awareness, celebrate recovery, days of rage, basic education treatment group for the sex offense I called in 1998. I participated in the automotive technician course for like 12, 13, 14 months. And since then, since I've been here at Rayburn, I've been cooking off and on for maybe about 3.5, 4 years, roughly, outside of me taking the automotive course. I've been staying on the job, staying productive, staying out the way, trying to follow the rules of the land, because that's the way to be. And I think I deserve another chance, because it's been a long, hard, difficult road for me. I know I got write-ups in my jacket, but here lately, in the last maybe 5, 6 years, I've been trying to stay pretty clean and stay right up free. It's probably the longest I've been right up free since I've been down.
When would you last try to? 2020?
Yes, sir. August of 2020.
All right.
It was for a theft. I left the kitchen with some unauthorized food items.
That's all you want to say?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Warren, can you tell us a little bit about
As he said, he does have a history of some disciplinary issues. It does look like since about 18, it's gotten much better and much improved, and he hasn't had one since 2020. He does work in the kitchen, and he's taken a good many classes.
We don't have anybody wanting to appear and speak today in support or in opposition, but we do have some opposition listed in the investigation. From the district attorney's office is opposed, the sheriff's office is opposed, and the chief of police is opposed. So we do have some opposition. Ms. Ledoux is the board member who's been assigned your case. So she is going to start the questioning.
So when was the last time? Did you have a parole hearing before? You've had a parole hearing before, correct?
3.
Yes, ma'am. Last year in April.
And at that time, you got 2 votes for grant and 1 to deny, or that's last year.
That was it, right?
I believe it was 1
To
to
grant.
grant and 2 to deny because of a parole violation, 2003 parole violation.
And at this time, you have taken all 3 phases of your sex offender treatment.
Yes, ma'am. I took all 4 phases. Not only that, I took a facilitator course too, called Making Things for Good. And I facilitated that outside of that for roughly a year.
And you're not on the sex offense on this particular instant offense. So that was in a previous.
Yes, man, that was in 1998.
What were your release plans?
My release plans, I had filled out an interstate compact to Dallas, Texas, to live with a female cousin of mine.
And has that been approved? What do you want to do in terms of work? I know you've done some automotive, so you have a skill that you can earn a living with, right?
Yes, ma'am. That's not the only skill I have. I can cook too.
Those are in great demand.
Ma'am, I've been trying. That's about what I have under my belt so far since I've been here. I've been cooking my whole jokes the whole time I've been down. But I really got better at what I do since I've been here at Rayburn. Because I've been like almost a head cook for like what, almost 3 years at some point.
Okay.
And that gives certificates for that job training skills.
So when they dropped the aggravated kidnapping, that was actually a kind of a plea bargain, right? When they dropped, because you only got a 25-year sentence.
No, ma'am, it wasn't a plea bargain. The charges was aggravated kidnapping, second-degree kidnapping, aggravated assault, unauthorized entry. 3 of those charges was dropped. And when I went to trial on unauthorized entry, that's when they come back with a guilty verdict on unauthorized entry, and by me having 10 felonies within 10 years, that's how I come up with the 25-year sentence as a habitual felon in 2006. Yes, ma'am.
His residency plan has been approved.
To go to Dallas.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I see your history is not good. You've had a lot of arrests. You're, third or fourth felony offender. But the things you've done since you've been there lead me to believe that you may have an opportunity for success. I'd like to go into executive session. If anyone would second that.
I'll second.
Steve
Yes.
Bruce,
Yes.
Jerry Ledoux, yes, Danny Bowers.
Yes. All right, we returned from executive session. Mr. Blade, I have a question for you. What was it that caused you to do what you did that day? Was it anger? Was it drugs? Was it a combination? What made you do what you did on that day when you went in there with a gun, threw the lady over your shoulder, dragged her outside, threatened her? Tell us a little bit about the reality of that day and what happened that day.
My environment shaped me and raised me in both because of things I was seeing around at the time as an adolescent coming up in the household, abusive stepfather. To my mother, I thought that was what real love was. And that's not what real love is. And that's what, it wasn't just the drugs and the alcohol. That was mainly what it was. I was raised in a home like that. And when I got older, I started going through pain and habits and hurts and them attachments. So I didn't know how to deal with it at that time. So I come on this side and I started taking these programs, getting into one, getting another, and kept that process going for myself. Talking to my family members, disconnecting myself from the people that ain't mean me no good. That's where I'm at here today still.
How long have you been on this charge?
Since 2006.
Joe,
Sir,
you don't know how many years you've been in prison?
Quick call.
like I'm
19.
right at, yes, sir.
I have no further questions. Barbara, I'm sorry I interrupted.
All right, no problem. I don't have any further questions either. So we are ready to vote. Mr. Duke, you're first.
Yeah, in your last couple of hearings, you were, asked to take sex offender treatment program, and you have done that, and you have done your, even the training for that. Your conduct has been acceptable. My vote today is to grant to your out-of-state compact to Texas. And I don't have any further conditions on that.
Mr. Freeman?
Okay, I think you've done well lately since 2019. You have an out-of-state plan to go to Texas. I do not want you around that victim whatsoever. Even if she calls or whatever, you are not to go around the victim. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, my vote today is going to be to grant you parole to Texas. Okay? You change your mind and don't go to Texas, all but bets off. Okay, but you got to approve compact. So I approve you to your residence plan in Texas.
Thanks, sir.
All right, Mr. Blade, I'm gonna also vote to grant you parole today, but on the condition that once you're out and on the street, that you complete another substance abuse evaluation and another anger management class, just to make sure that you have connected with those ties, should you feel to slip on any one of those two. I just want to make sure that you're really gonna be all in. So that'll be after your release, but you'll be granted parole today.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
All right, this will conclude our business with Mr. Blade today. It will also conclude our business at Raven Correctional Center. The parole board will adjourn today at 12:39 a.m. Good luck to you.
Thank you, board.
Well, they granted, and it was interesting. It took 3 hearings to finally hear kind of like what he actually did, and you heard it from Mr. Barros, who the more I see him, the more I like him. I think he does a pretty good job. He seems to do the research, right? So Danny Barros, a former probation and parole supervisor with 37 and a half years experience in probation and parole. It's kind of like Mr. Freeman. They have similar backgrounds. He began his career in probation and parole in 1986 when he was hired as a field agent and worked as a specialist and supervisor until his retirement in 2018. Previously served as president and vice president, sergeant at arms board member, and legislative liaison at Louisiana Probation and Parole Office Association. So he's pretty much a high qualified parole board member, if you ask me, unlike some of these other states that we watch where parole board members have, in my opinion, zero qualification. I mean, in Connecticut, one of the leading parole board members was a paralegal for a law firm that basically does are you hurt injury claims. I mean, that's her background. And I'm not a hater on paralegals, and I've worked with many paralegals, and they often to be as smart and as knowledgeable about the law as the attorneys that they work with. But to be a fall down and hurt yourself paralegal for a law firm, and then all of a sudden deciding if this person's going to get free or not, that just doesn't make much sense to me. It doesn't seem super qualified. Anyways, I don't have information about this case that I can share with you. I don't have an appeal. Richard was able to find something in like 2012 where he tried to sue the prison because he got a tooth pulled and they didn't take care of him. And, you know, of course it didn't work out. Those lawsuits never do. But I do want to thank Richard for connecting the dots on these hearings. Keep in mind, when a hearing comes up in in present day, Richard puts it in a spreadsheet. If you can just think about this, conceptualize it, He says, Mandu, here's 2020 when he had the 2020 hearing. Here's the 2023 hearing. Here's the 2024 hearing. Here's the links. Here's the timestamps. It makes it possible to glue these all together. And I think that's. I mean, this is the full picture that we get to see. I find it fascinating. Now, this hearing in particular wasn't that fascinating, but it was nonetheless interesting. And, they ultimately granted, they're sending him out of state. They love to do that. It's getting rid of a problem for the state. If you can get an I caught somewhere else, in my opinion, it increases your chances of parole because it just solves a big problem. It's like the state doesn't really need to worry about it again. He might go and do something wrong, but no news article is going to pick it up. No one's going to get in trouble. No one's going to lose their job. So I think there's just a lot that rides on that. I don't know how states decide why they'll accept criminals or not, but apparently it's like some type of treaty they have with each other that they do it. And then you tell me too, do you think he should have gotten out? I mean, the crimes, I can't tell. Did he seemed to not really take accountability. Mr. Barras called him out. He kind of but to his credit, he did do what he did. A lot of folks, they just don't do anything in prison. They don't put an effort into getting out, and they just do nothing. And there should be a difference between those that put in an effort and those that don't. And on that note, let's watch a hearing from someone who's been serving a long time and didn't put in any effort to improve themselves. And I think there could be some contrast to that. You might have seen this. Only about 1% of my subscribers have, but I think it's worth looking at again. With that, let's jump in.
Says in the police report y'all burned the car with the guy in it. What made y'all decide to do that?
I don't know, sir. I can't. I guess it's the cleanest way to hide the evidence. I was intoxicated and not thinking clearly. And I was, everything was just bad, just bad. I ain't.
All right.
Not sure you want to have a creepy laugh like that when you're asking the parole board to release you 15 years early. This man is receiving his first parole hearing out of the infamous Angola prison in Louisiana. He took a life and then tried to hide the evidence by burning the body in the car. I'll unpack with the details that we have at the end.
Yes, sir. Henry Stevens, DLC number 494517.
Okay, that's right. I'm gonna read some stuff into the record, Mr. Stevens. If anything is incorrect, tell me about it and we'll look into it. You are a first felony offender.
Yes,
with
sir.
a parole date of 6/16/24, good time date of 10/27/34, adjusted. You must have lost some good time because originally it was 3/15/34. And your full term date is 6/16/39. You were given a 35-year sentence for the charge of manslaughter. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You have no speakers today. So, Mr. Henry, tell me today, why would you consider letting you out and what happened? What took place to get you arrested?
I had a bad encounter with a guy, and we both were intoxicated, got in a physical incident with one another, and he threatened my life, and it spiraled out of control from there, and he acted on it, and I responded to it. It was a poor decision. It was a decision I made out of fear and uncertainty, and I deeply regret it. Deeply regret it.
And why should we think about letting you out today?
I would like to have an opportunity to prove myself that I deserve a second chance. It's my first time offense ever in prison, and it's been a real hard one. And I've experienced hardship on hardships, and seeing loved ones die being here is hard, you know, and my dad's about to pass away soon. I hope and pray I could be out there with him what time left he's got left. And do something positive for him.
All right, anything else?
No, sir.
Okay,
I just like to live life in peace.
okay. Warden Ambo, what do you have to say about Mr. Stevens?
So Mr. Stevens only been here a year. He came here in May of 2023. Since he's been here, he has not had any programming. Because of the fact that he's been in protected custody a couple times, he's been transferred to and from facilities and in the past. So he hasn't had any programs. I'm not sure right now if he's on a backlog for any programs. Ms. Jody says he is. I think he's on a backlog for anger management and victim awareness. So through the time he's been in jail, he only had 25 DB reports, with the last one being 12/3 of 2018. And that was a Rule 4, which is a low court DB. So basically, that's all I have to say. I don't really have much on him.
Okay, could you tell us about his good time? Do you know any why he lost 300 and something days and only got 75 back?
Yeah, if he's only had 25 write-ups and he lost 301 good time days, I'm a little confused.
Yeah, I'm gonna let my record manager explain it to you. So when he asked for his good time back, his 301 days, the warden at that time only gave him 75 days. So it was up to the warden's discretion to give him the full days back. How many kids?
But they lose 301. What kind of,
How many days could he have only given 280, right?
right, we could have given all of it.
We could have gave all 301 back. But he's eligible to apply for restoration of good time again now.
Do you know what caused him to lose that much?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. When I was at DCI, they're real strict on the 21s. I have, I think, 4 or 5, but they're consensual 21s, and they're real hard on that. They hit you hard with pretty hard there, but it's good time.
And they should. Okay.
Okay, and some of those can't be restored. Some of those days that he got.
If you have it.
21, yeah, escaping 21s are hard to be to give restoration of good time back to.
Thank you both.
So
We appreciate it. Got it now.
Okay, all right.
All right.
That is a big concern to me. Mr. Stevens was that loss of good time, and it's still of concern to me. Jazz, can y'all turn the thank you. That's still of concern to me. You know, at this point, I don't have any questions. When you were given manslaughter charge, you could have been given a second degree. You pled down to manslaughter, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that was a huge break right there.
Yes, ma'am.
You only get 35 years. And you haven't really proven your conduct is where it needs to be in my mind. I think you're working there, but I have concerns about that. I don't have any questions.
I have no questions. Mr. Byron?
Says in the police report y'all burned the car with the guy in it. What made y'all decide to do that?
I don't know, sir. I can't. I think, I guess it's the cleanest way to hide the evidence. I was intoxicated and not thinking clearly. And I was everything was just bad, just bad. I ain't,
All right, thank you. Have you taken any, substance abuse classes?
yes, sir. And I do have anger management. I took it. I don't know where it got lost in my file or not, but I do have that class. I do have that and character counts, which I think that's the best class I've ever taken. Character count.
Okay, is the panel ready to vote?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Ledoux?
Mr. Stevens, it's not going to come probably as a surprise that I'm going to deny today, but I need for you to get involved there in some programming. I need to keep your conduct where it needs to be. You're still young, and I think you have an opportunity to do better in the next couple of years, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna concur with Ms. Ledoux on that, based on the violent and senseless nature of the crime, the strong opposition from the victim's family that we didn't talk too much about, the law enforcement opposition, and that you've not served enough time for a murder charge. You barely above half of it, and that no programs substantially have been completed. So get some programs, like she said, before the next appearance at the parole board, and you'll have a better shot.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, and I concur with my colleagues. My vote is also to deny. But now that you at Angola, get some classes and as many substance abuse classes as you can.
Yes,
Okay?
sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Good luck to you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, in this unpacking, there's not much to go over. We'll go over some of the news in the crime. We'll look at who the warden is, because I was just curious, so I pulled that up. And we'll also look at the write-ups that he received that he was talking about out of the Angola write-up handbook. So starting with the crime, it's here's the article written in 2004, and to think that it's been 20 years since 2004. He's been sitting there in Angola, getting quite comfortable, as we see. But a pit command had been charged with second-degree murder and the death of a man whose charred remains were found inside a burned car. Vernon Parish Sheriff Detective arrested 25. He was 25 at the time, so he's 45 now. Year-old Henry W. Stevens and 43-year-old Shirley Johnson. Authorities say the pair lived together and both knew the victim. Chief Investigator Marvin Hilton says the couple allegedly set fire to the vehicle Simmons was in and said that the alleged incident was a result of a fight between the couple and Simmons. Simmons' remains were found April 25th in a wooded area of Cravens. The body was sent to Shreveport, and in the autopsy, it revealed that he'd been shot several times. Both Stevens and Johnson are being held in the parish jail, but bond has not been set. So, and then they just did a plea deal. They didn't do a trial. It's like a classic, you see this all the time. It's like, oh, let's light the car on fire. But I mean, at least he was being honest. If we give him credit for anything, he was just being honest. There was no rhetoric. There was no blah, blah, blah. But and he's kind of well spoken. Did I imagine that? It wasn't like what you'd expect. But looking at him, it was like I thought I'd have much more of the. We have seen each side of the spectrum out of Louisiana, and I don't know. He seems to kind of enjoy prison. The write-ups that he has. So remember, he said, and he had a lot of write-ups. We don't see that often. I was surprised that they were even taking it as lightly as they were, because it's not a ton, but it's much. We often see folks who get in there and don't have any write-ups, and I think that this is also a perfect example of how there are inmates that do excel in prison and there are those that just coast. And we so often see the ones that excel, and it's hard to know, do we really appreciate them excelling? So they took programs, so they are involved in this and in that. But yeah, there's a big difference. You can kind of see, in this case, someone who's been locked up for 20 years where he's done pretty much nothing. And I think if anything, it can help us appreciate the ones that are more ambitious, that do something. Because if he had done something, if he was extraordinary or stand out, he would have gotten paroled, I think. You never know. The board's being a bit tougher these days. So here's his 21 write-up. And that means, so a 21 write-up is a sex offense, and then it goes in categories of A, B, C, D, right? So you have the non-consensual, you have, which would be the A, so that's the worst. You have B, which is, then you have C, D, E, F, G, and H. And it goes through the different, now his were the 21, I think his were the 21 C's. Which is offender and offender, and it's consensual. It's still, they say it's not allowed, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's and but it was interesting. Miss Ledoux was like, that's still not okay. And here is the article on the warden. I didn't realize this. I was curious, so I just brought it up. And so it was the first Black woman to be a warden at Angola. Now they have had assistant wardens, but she was the first warden. And this is written in 2022. Baton Rouge, the Department of Correction recently promoted Deputy Assistant Secretary Rochelle Ambo to the position of Deputy Warden of Louisiana State Penitentiary. Ambo was the third Black woman to serve as Deputy Warden for the Louisiana Department of Corrections. However, she's the first Black woman to serve as Deputy Warden of Louisiana's largest prison. Oh, so she's still not a full warden. Maybe she is, and we don't have that article now. I'm not sure. Rochelle is a highly qualified individual who brings decades of correction experience in a new position. Rochelle joined the department in 1992 as a correction officer in LSU. Institute for Women, LCIW. She was risen through the ranks, serving as the agency's first correctional transitional specialist in 2005. Was promoted in 2014 as Deputy Assistant Secretary Reentry. Secretary Jimmy LeBlanc recently created the Division of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, DEI, within the Department of Corrections. DEI responsible for effectively developing diverse workforce to level organization and committed to continually fostering. And I know that that is a topic of conversation these days. DEI provides leadership and support to ensure the value of diversity, equity in vital components in all decisions that impact the people whom we serve, including applicants for employment, staff, the incarcerated families, incarcerated visitors, volunteers. I appreciate the confidence of Secretary LeBlanc and Warden Tim Hooper in my ability to help lead Louisiana's largest prison. The Deputy Warden position is an exciting and challenging continuum of my 27-year career in public service. This is an opportunity to showcase the betterment of our government system and the members of various diverse communities represented in the leadership management position. While humbly in this opportunity, I'm uniquely equipped in challenges it presents. And for those of you who might not know, Angola is more than just a prison. It is like a city. According to Wikipedia, Angola is the largest maximum security prison in the United States with 6,300 prisoners and 1,800 staff. The largest in America. Can you imagine? The 28 square miles of land prison sits. It was known as, before the American Civil War, as the Angola Plantation, and a slave plantation owned by slave trader Isaac Franklin. The prison is located at the end of Louisiana Highway. There's a long history, and I read an interesting book. But at one point they actually had prisoners in Angola acting as guards, armed with guns. If you can believe that that was a thing back in the day. And they basically, it's almost like everything in Angola is handled in Angola. The food is processed in Angola. Everything, it's like a self-sustaining little city. Focused around really profit and whatnot. And there's a lot of controversy around Angola, of course. And here's just something I was curious about, so I pulled it up. Louisiana State Penitentiary salaries. The highest salary in LSU in 2023 was $364,000. If you can imagine that, not bad. Number of employees year in 2023 was 1,300. The average salary was 60,000, and the median salary was 58,000. LSU average salary is 20%, 7% higher than the USA average salary, 35% higher than the US median. That's actually much higher than I thought. I mean, I know that starting off in a lot of these correction facilities, it's in Louisiana, it's absolute minimum wage. At least that's from the information I've read up until this point. Anyways, thank you for being here. Thank you, Richard, for sharing the information. Subscribe, help the channel reach 100,000 subscribers. And with that, I'll let you go.